I have sat in silence with many souls. Some are still wrapped in the weight of this world, while others are already drifting between dimensions, untethered. In these moments, I have learned that death is not an end, but a breath, a sacred pause. And in this pause, something astonishing happens. Not all souls rush back to the earth. Some choose never to return. You see, when a soul passes from this plane, it enters what the mystics often call the interlife, a realm of reflection. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, often spoke of this. He described it as a luminous space where the soul communes with the essence of what it has been and what it is becoming. And in this place, a question echoes through the soul like a bell through a canyon. Have I fulfilled the design? Not every soul answers yes, but for those rare few that do, something shifts. There was once an old healer I met in northern India, near the edge of Rishikesh. Her name was Amma Bhavani. She had lived a life of silent service, tending to the sick with hands so gentle it was said pain bowed in her presence. One evening as the sun melted into the Ganges, she turned to me and whispered, "This is my last body." Her eyes, deep as wells, held no fear, only clarity. "Last body?" I asked. She nodded. When a soul stops asking for anything, not forgiveness, not love, not recognition, it no longer needs form. Her words settled into me like seeds. I've since heard this from others in different tongues, different traditions. A soul, when fully balanced, no longer binds itself to the wheel of return. Now, some might believe this happens only to saints or sages, but I tell you, there are anonymous souls walking beside you who are on their final rounds. They do not announce themselves. You will know them not by their robes or rituals, but by their stillness. Their way of being is less about doing and more about being. A quiet awareness, a gentle gaze, a presence that makes the air around them feel softer. Souls that no longer carry karmic residue. They have faced their echoes, every thought, word, and deed, and met them with understanding. They do not reincarnate because they have no need to fix, prove, or experience further. Their cup is full. Their lesson is complete. But let us not confuse this with escape. Non-return is not a reward, nor is it a prize for endurance. It is simply the natural unfolding of consciousness when all grasping ends. One of the great misunderstandings is that reincarnation is a punishment. No, beloved, reincarnation is mercy, a chance to remember what we've forgotten, to love where we once hated, to see where we once judged blindly. But when the remembering is complete, when the soul knows itself as both drop and ocean, there is peace. And from that peace, a new path emerges, not downward into flesh, but upward into unity. This is where we begin. In the silence between lifetimes, a soul does not drift aimlessly. It is drawn like a leaf in a stream by the invisible threads of karma. And if you listen carefully, you can feel them too. They are woven into every choice, every reaction, and every bond you've ever known. They are not punishments, they are mirrors. When people ask me, why do some souls reincarnate while others do not? I always begin here, with the unfinished threads. Karma, in its true essence, is not judgment. It is remembrance. It is the soul seeking to complete a melody it once began, but never finished. Many years ago, I met a man in southern Brazil who had an unshakable fear of water. He had never swum, never sailed, never bathed in a river, and yet he was born into a family of fishermen living beside the vast Atlantic. He came to me in distress, saying, "I do not understand why I fear what I've never known." During our work together, he entered a deep meditative trance. He began to speak in a voice not quite his own, trembling. In a previous life, he had been a sailor who abandoned his crew during a storm to save himself. He watched from a lifeboat as the others drowned. His body had changed, but the guilt remained. The water still remembered, and so did he. This is karma, not just deeds, but the emotional imprints they leave behind. The soul returns not because it is forced to, but because it chooses to heal its own rupture. Every life is a chance to restore balance, to touch the wound with compassion, and to close it with truth. But then there are souls that have no such threads pulling at them. They have faced all storms and stayed in the boat. They have forgiven and been forgiven. Their echoes have faded. Their karma is resolved. And when that happens, the pull of the earth lessens. The cycle begins to loosen, and for some, it ends. We often imagine karma as something heavy, chains, burdens, debts. But in truth, karma is love trying to find its way back to itself. The soul that does not reincarnate is not a soul that has escaped karma. It is a soul that has become love in its purest form. But let us look deeper still. There are also those who have earned the right to choose. They stand at the threshold of return, but they are not compelled. These are the souls that hover like lanterns at the edge of the world, watching, waiting, and sometimes guiding. They are your invisible teachers, the ones who whisper courage into your heart when you feel lost. You will not see them, but you will feel their presence in the still moments. At dawn in prayer and grief, they have touched the fire of life and emerged whole. They do not need to return, but some do out of compassion. This is the mystery. Not all non-returners stay away. Some descend again, but not as students. They come as teachers. Their reincarnation is not karmic, but dharmic. Not out of need, but out of service. In the Tibetan tradition, these souls are known as bodhisattvas. In other paths, they are called avatars, masters, or old souls. But regardless of the name, their essence is the same. They return, not to finish something, but to illuminate the way for others. Think of it this way. Most of us are climbing the mountain of life, slipping on loose stones and grasping for breath. But some have reached the summit, and instead of staying there, they come back down. Not because they must, but because they know the way. And so, karma becomes choice, and choice becomes offering. This too is why some souls never reincarnate, or reincarnate only once more for one sacred purpose. I ask you now to reflect. What cords still bind your soul? What patterns do you repeat, lifetime after lifetime, waiting for a different outcome? What in you still seeks completion? To understand why some souls never return, we must first understand why we keep coming back. Before your first cry, before your first breath, even before the heart began to beat in your mother's womb, you were elsewhere. And there, in the stillness of the soul's home, you made choices. You chose your path, your pain, your purpose, but you did not choose alone. We all arrive here with a map written in light, but the lines of that map are not drawn by fate. They are shaped by intention, by sacred agreements. These are the soul contracts forged not in haste, but in deep knowing. These contracts are not legal. They are not binding in the earthly sense. They are vibrational promises made between souls who recognize each other beyond time. Promises to grow together, to challenge each other, and to hold up mirrors when the truth becomes difficult to see. Many people recoil at this idea. Why would I choose suffering? They ask. Why would I agree to heartbreak, to loss, to betrayal? And I tell them gently, growth is not born of comfort, but of contrast. Let me share a story. I once guided a woman in her 60s through a soul regression. Her life had been marked by repeated abandonment, by parents, lovers, even her own children. She carried a loneliness so old. In trance, she returned to a place of pre-incarnation, a luminous hall filled with energy she recognized but could not name. There, she saw herself agreeing to meet certain souls in this lifetime, some to offer love, others to withhold it. One of those souls, she realized, was her father, who had left when she was only 5. She watched weeping as her higher self said to his, "In this life, I will know my worth through your absence." The tears she cried were not of pain, but of understanding. And with that recognition, something shifted. The wound didn't vanish, but it no longer defined her. This is the quiet power of soul contracts. They are not punishments, they are frameworks. And like all contracts, they can be revised because the soul evolves, and so do its needs. Now listen closely. Not all contracts require reincarnation. Some are fulfilled in a single lifetime. Others carry across many. And when the final clause is complete, when the purpose has been met, the contract dissolves, and the soul, finally free of its spiritual obligations, may choose not to return. But what determines this completion? It is not success in the human sense. Not money, fame, or even the approval of others. It is alignment. The soul asks, Did I become more true? And when the answer is yes, when the essence of love has been embodied, even amidst suffering, the soul's curriculum ends. This is why some souls never reincarnate. Not because they have escaped life, but because they have fulfilled their soul's design. Still, many of us return because we have more to learn, more to give, or more to forgive, and we do so with companions. Your greatest joy and your deepest wound often arrive in the same disguise. A parent, a child, a lover, a rival. These souls are not random. They are part of your counsel. They walk beside you, lifetime after lifetime, playing different roles in your unfolding. In Hindu and Buddhist traditions, this is known as the karmic web, a sacred weaving of souls across incarnations, bound not by fate, but by shared evolution. You may have been your mother's father in another life. Your best friend today may have once been your betrayer. What matters is not who you were, but what you agreed to become now. I say this not to overwhelm you, but to awaken something ancient in you. You are not a victim of life. You are a participant in a divine orchestration. And the moment you begin to see your life through this lens, everything shifts. When a soul reaches the point where no more contracts remain, where every lesson has been embraced with grace, it no longer needs a body to learn. The reincarnational pull dissolves. What remains is freedom, not to escape life, but to transcend the need for it. And so the soul rests. But some, as I've said before, return anyway. Not because of karmic weight, but out of dharmic love. They return not to resolve, but to serve. To be light where there is darkness. To be presence where there is fear. There is a silence deeper than any stillness on earth. A silence not of emptiness, but of completion. It is there that the souls who do not return reside, not above us, not beyond us, but through us. They have transcended the need for form. Their classroom is no longer earth. Their lessons have been fully lived. You may ask, where do these souls go? And I would answer gently, they don't go anywhere in the way the mind expects. They expand. They become something wider than identity, deeper than memory. They merge with what many call the divine. But they are not lost. They are not erased. They are fulfilled. In ancient Vedic texts, this state is known as moksha, liberation from the cycle of birth and death. In the Christian mystic tradition, it is referred to as union with God. The Buddhists call it nirvana, the extinguishing of the flame of desire, not into darkness, but into pure awareness. And yet, all these names point to the same sacred truth. The soul, having remembered itself completely, no longer needs a mirror to know who it is. Let me tell you a story. In northern India, I once stayed in a small ashram built at the edge of a river. There was a monk there, an old man whose presence was so still, so vast, that birds would rest on his shoulders without fear. He barely spoke, but when he did, it was as if mountains listened. One morning I asked him, "Master, have you known many lifetimes?" He smiled and replied, "Many, until I stopped asking to be born. I didn't understand at the time, but years later, in deep meditation, I saw his truth. He was a soul who had crossed the threshold. He walked among us, but he was no longer bound by the wheel. His presence was a gift, not a necessity. He lived from the center, untouched by ambition or regret. He had become the sky, witnessing all, needing nothing. This is the final mystery. When a soul no longer reincarnates, it doesn't vanish. It becomes presence itself. These souls are the quiet forces behind inspiration, healing, and sudden moments of clarity. They are not individualities with egos or names, but currents of wisdom moving through creation. You have felt them when you stood at a crossroads and suddenly knew which way to turn, when grief tore your chest open and something greater held you still, when you forgave someone and felt a peace that was not yours alone. That was them, not as ghosts or guides, but as awakened consciousness flowing into yours, not separate, not above, just awakened. Now, some of these souls take on roles as guardians in the realms beyond. They assist newly departed souls, helping them remember who they are. Others become part of the creative force itself, energies of harmony, beauty, and synchronicity. They are like wind, unseen yet undeniable. But there is something even more tender to know. Some of them stay near those they once loved, not because of attachment, but because of devotion. These are not spirits lingering. They are liberated souls offering silent companionship. When you speak to the stars, when you light a candle and whisper a name, they are there, not hovering, but harmonizing. Their love is not possessive, it is participatory. So, what becomes of a soul that no longer returns? It becomes what it always was beneath the stories, love in its most unbounded form. And for us who are still walking the earth, what does this mean? It means that your path, your pain, your purpose, it means your wounds are not signs of failure but invitations to remember. It means that you too are moving life after life toward that same luminous stillness. Perhaps this is your 15th lifetime, perhaps your first, perhaps your last. But regardless, you are not lost, you are not late. Every experience, even the most painful, is part of your unfolding. There is a beauty in knowing that not all will return, not because they are better, but because they are complete. And there is no shame in returning again and again because it means your soul still burns to grow, to heal, to serve. Now, let us return to the question that opened this journey. Why do some souls never reincarnate? Because they remember, because they have loved without condition, because they have faced the fire and become the light, because their story, for now, is whole. And so I leave you with this. The soul's journey is not linear. It spirals, it deepens. And one day, perhaps in this life, perhaps in another, you too will walk out of the wheel, not with pride, but with peace. And when you do, your presence will become part of the quiet miracle that helps others remember their own way home. Until then, walk gently, love deeply, learn with reverence, and never forget you are already what you seek to become. If this journey stirred something deep within you, if you felt seen, remembered, or simply more alive, then I invite you to walk this path with me. Subscribe to this channel and become part of a soul tribe committed to truth, healing, and awakening. Each video is a step inward, a reminder of what you've always known but may have forgotten. The journey doesn't end here. It only deepens. Activate the bell so that when a new message comes through, your soul won't miss the call. Together, let us remember.